Gu Xingfeng was just an ordinary transmigrator, working as a guard in the Great Flame Dynasty's Demon Quelling Bureau. Like always, he came to check on the sealed creatures inside, but this time the one locked up was a little corpse charmer. She looked all pitiful and begged him to let her out, promising she'd do anything in return. Her voice had this strange pull to it, making Gu Xingfeng feel restless and thirsty. But since he came from a modern world, he'd already seen plenty of tricks like this. To him, her so-called charm was no different than a social media filter. He could resist it, and he quickly realized that if he gave in, she'd drain his energy. Many of his colleagues had already fallen for her tricks, and he didn't want to end up like them. So he scolded her for trying such cheap tricks and turned to leave. The little corpse charmer wasn't done though. She suddenly changed her form, standing tall like a graceful woman, her tone full of authority as she demanded he open the door. For a moment, Gu Xingfeng felt pressure from her commanding voice. Just as he was about to glance back, a sharp cracking sound broke through his hesitation. When he finally looked, she was standing there in black stockings, holding a whip and teasing him, asking if she looked good. Gu Xingfeng felt stuck. His brain told him not to look, but his heart said it was too tempting to miss. He convinced himself it was harmless. After all, the prison was full of seals and guards. What could possibly happen from just one look? And in his mind, black stockings were like a divine temptation. That single look, though, pulled him right in. He lost himself completely, even opening the cell door with his own hands and stepping inside. The moment the door opened, the little corpse charmer dropped her act. She rushed at him and tried to bite his neck, but instead of hurting him, it was like she hit a rock and almost cracked her teeth. Right then, a robotic voice rang in Gu Xingfeng's head. It said the system had been activated. Every time he was attacked by a creature, his defense would grow stronger. His stats had already gone up by 1. Shocked, Gu Xingfeng looked around, wondering where the voice came from. Meanwhile, the little corpse charmer calmly walked out of the cell. Gu Xingfeng panicked, yelling that it was a ghost, and rushed toward the exit, but she didn't plan on letting him escape so easily. With one swift leap, she landed right above him and went for his neck again. The moment the little corpse charmer bit him, Gu Xingfeng thought he was finished. But then that system voice rang in his head again, telling him his defense had gone up. Hearing it, he grinned. So the voice wasn't his imagination. The system was real. Curious, he asked what else it could do. The system explained very directly. Every time a creature attacked him, his defense would grow stronger. They couldn't actually harm him, only make him tougher. Gu Xingfeng laughed out loud. With a system like this, he felt like he could stroll around the prison without fear. But before he could enjoy the thought, the little corpse charmer rushed at him again. This time he didn't back down. He smacked her away and complained that she almost gave him a heart attack, telling her to change back and return the young lady she was pretending to be. She froze for a moment, then her face twisted in anger. Calling him a shameless human, she lunged again, grabbing his neck and throwing him to the floor. The system chimed once more. Defense +2. Gu Xingfeng, still lying down, got even happier. He realized the more she attacked him, the stronger he'd get. So he decided to tease her further, telling her to put in more effort, almost like he was mocking her. Furious, the little corpse charmer's eyes turned red as she went into a frenzy, striking him over and over. The system alerts kept stacking, raising his defense non-stop. After a while, though, Gu Xingfeng started getting lazy. He just lay on the ground and joked that this was actually a good back massage. He even told her to hit harder, saying his waist and back were sore from sitting too much. He warned her not to slack off, or else he'd use a whip himself. But as his defense grew, her strikes barely counted anymore. His points were rising slower, and that annoyed him. So he slapped her again, calling her useless, and then casually stretched out his legs, treating her attacks like a foot massage. The little corpse charmer had never been humiliated like this in her life, and it drove her mad. But no matter how hard she went at it, it only made him stronger. Finally, the system congratulated him. He had maxed out his defense and gained a new talent: copper skin, iron bones. Hearing this, Gu Xingfeng sighed and said she wasn't much use anymore. He demanded she change back into the black stockings lady, or else he'd stop being nice. She hesitated, but Gu Xingfeng grabbed her face coldly and reminded her that his words carried weight. Then he tossed her aside, eager to test out his new upgrade. He kicked at her with confidence until she had no choice but to change back into the graceful black stockings lady. Still not satisfied, Gu Xingfeng leaned back and ordered her to dance for him. And not just any dance, he wanted a cool one. The little corpse charmer stayed quiet for a while, but in the end, she reluctantly gave in and performed. Gu Xingfeng even corrected her mid-performance, teaching her a few poses like a strict coach. After hours of this, the poor charmer was completely drained, lying on the ground gasping, while Gu Xingfeng finally stepped out of the cell. Before leaving, he told her to keep practicing those poses and that he'd come back to check next time. With that, he decided to explore more of the demon quelling prison. The place had 3 levels. The first floor was for low-level creatures. The second floor was for mid-tier ones, but only yellow-rank exorcists and above could go there. And the third floor? That was reserved for the high-tier monsters, only accessible to those at mysterious rank and higher. Gu Xingfeng was just a temp worker, so he could only wander around the first floor. Just as he was about to open the next cell, the guard outside reminded him it was time to switch shifts. Gu Qingfeng cheerfully agreed and went off to change his clothes. While changing, he casually asked the system if normal self-training could also make him stronger, aside from being attacked. The system only responded with silence, leaving him completely confused. Still, he thought, relying on yourself is better than relying on others. So he decided to visit the Scripture Vault Pavilion to find a training method. After browsing for a while, he found a technique called Iron Cloth Robe. It was all about strengthening the skin, muscles, and bones, and it matched perfectly with his existing copper skin, iron bones talent. Without hesitation, he registered for it at the front desk and rushed to the training hall. To his surprise, after just one day of practice, he had mastered the Iron Cloth Robe, something that usually took others decades. Not only that, the skill also helped him hide his copper skin, iron bones ability perfectly. Feeling satisfied, he returned to the prison for his shift. When his colleague Zhang Zheng saw him arriving early, he was stunned. Normally, Gu Qingfeng was always late. Gu Qingfeng smiled awkwardly and said he had turned over a new leaf and would even come in an hour early from now on to make up for the shifts Zhang Zheng had covered. Zhang Zheng didn't really believe him at first and even wondered if Gu Qingfeng had eaten something strange. But after hearing him confirm it seriously, Zhang Zheng happily called him a good brother and even promised to treat him to a drink. After Zhang Zheng left, Gu Qingfeng looked at the empty prison and smirked, wondering which cell he should check out next. Soon, he reached a cell covered in talismans and chains, the whole place oozing with mystery. Out of curiosity, he peeked through the small window, and suddenly, a giant bloodshot eyeball stared back at him. In the blink of an eye, his surroundings changed. He found himself in a peaceful scene with birds chirping, flowers blooming, and even a couple laughing nearby. But then the rising red sun in the sky suddenly opened up, revealing itself as a massive eyeball. The sight made his head spin, and the scene twisted into something terrifying, a sea of red mist. Mountains made of bones and a road paved with endless skeletons. Out of nowhere, a 100-meter-tall cyclops appeared, stomping toward him. The impact of its steps sent him flying like a rag doll. As the giant reached out to grab him again, the system's voice suddenly rang in his head. "You've been attacked by an eye demon. Soul strength +10." The system alert rang again, snapping Gu Qingfeng out of the illusion. He realized he had just been tricked for a moment. From inside the cell, a voice called him a lowly servant and ordered him to open the door. Gu Qingfeng was annoyed but didn't react right away. Instead, he pretended to still be under control and slowly pushed the cell door open, curious to see what was inside. To his surprise, the so-called terrifying presence was just a small, winged eye demon. The little thing looked so sure of its victory, but right when it thought its trick had worked, Gu Qingfeng suddenly slammed the cell door shut. The eye demon panicked, yelling at him to open the door again. Gu Qingfeng stayed calm, reached through and poked its big eye, making it cry out and curl into a corner in shock. It couldn't believe someone had broken its illusion so easily. Gu Qingfeng even teased it, saying something like, "You're hurt, let me treat you," which only made the eye demon angrier. It immediately cast another illusion, dragging Gu Qingfeng back into that strange dream world. This time, the eye demon turned into a giant cyclops, sitting proudly on a throne, glaring down at him like he was just an ant. It demanded Gu Qingfeng kneel, and countless eyes appeared all around, pressing him down with overwhelming force. Gu Qingfeng almost gave in, but right then the system chimed again. He was being attacked, and his soul strength had increased. With each alert, his soul power rose higher and higher until it hit the limit. Suddenly, he gained a brand new ability, illusory vision. Excited to try it, he lifted his hand, and in an instant, the roles reversed. Gu Qingfeng was now the one sitting on the throne, while the eye demon stood below, completely stunned. The creature couldn't believe its own technique had been stolen and turned against it. Gu Qingfeng snapped his fingers, ending the illusion and returning to the cell. Then, just to teach the eye demon a lesson, he gave it a painful little warning move and tossed it aside. But since this little thing had helped him gain a powerful new skill, he decided not to finish it off. Instead, he let it rest for now, saying he'd come back later. The poor eye demon was terrified. The thought of him returning again was enough to make it shiver. After that, Gu Qingfeng went to the Scripture Vault Pavilion to study his new ability. He learned that illusory vision had two main powers. It could control people's actions and trap them inside illusions. The only condition was that he needed eye contact, and the target's soul strength had to be lower than his. Otherwise, the skill wouldn't work well, or might fail completely. The best part was that this ability grew stronger as he did, making it a talent with endless potential. Gu Qingfeng thought about his current strength. With the soul power he had right now, handling fighters in the energy gathering realm wouldn't be a problem. But if he ran into someone from the inner energy realm, That might be tough. The path of a warrior, after all, was split into 5 main stages: energy gathering, inner energy, true energy, fierce energy, and finally innate realm, also called the Grandmaster stage. These matched up with the Demon Quelling Bureau's own ranks, starting from apprentice, then yellow, mysterious, earth, and the strongest, heaven rank. Each big stage even had 9 smaller levels, and only after reaching the 9th could someone move to the next stage. Gu Qingfeng himself was only at the 3rd level of energy gathering, so facing someone from the inner energy realm would be like climbing a mountain. Still, he wasn't discouraged. After all, it had only been 2 days, and the system had already made him untouchable in his own stage. He couldn't help but wonder just how strong he'd get if he kept going a few more days, or even cleared all 3 levels of the demon quelling prison. Right then, an old voice called out from the next cell, asking him to come over. Gu Qingfeng was a bit surprised to hear a prisoner taking the initiative, but he went closer and peeked through the small window. Inside, he saw an old man with a thin, lifeless face. The man asked if Gu Qingfeng had come looking for talisman materials. Gu Qingfeng didn't really get what that meant, but then he saw the old man reach into his chest, tear off a piece of his own body that instantly turned into tree bark and hand it over. This bark, the old man explained, was useful for making talismans. At first, Gu Qingfeng thought it was just a gift, so he casually reached his hand into the cell to take it. That action alone shocked the old man. Most guards would never dare stick their hands into a demon's cell. When the old man hesitated, Gu Qingfeng got a little impatient, asking if he was handing it over or not. The old man gave a cold little smile and finally passed it to him. Gu Qingfeng sniffed the bark and realized it smelled just like the material used on the enchanted cell doors. That's when it clicked. The old man was actually a tree demon, and his bark could be harvested to make talismans. No wonder the Bureau kept him locked here. It was like having a living, renewable treasure source. Gu Qingfeng tucked the bark away since it was valuable, but at the same time, he felt that taking favors would make things complicated. Plus, it didn't feel right to treat the old man as practice material, so he decided to leave him be for now. The old man spoke up again, asking if Gu Qingfeng was in a rush or if he could stay and chat for a while. He explained he had been locked up for 10 years with hardly anyone to talk to, and with his life running short, he just wanted some conversation to ease his mind. Gu Qingfeng shrugged and agreed, asking what he wanted to talk about. The old man leaned back and started telling his story. 100 years ago in Ji County, there was a small place called Zhang Family Village. The people there lived simple, peaceful lives. One day, a boy named Zhang Heng planted a small locust tree by accident. As he was spinning this story, the old man was secretly planning to lure Gu Qingfeng into opening the door. But before he could even finish, Gu Qingfeng suddenly pushed the cell door open himself, catching the old man completely off guard. The old man pointed at him in shock, asking how he dared to just walk in like that. Wasn't he afraid? Gu Qingfeng found a swing nearby, sat down like it was no big deal, and told the old man that he seemed like a harmless type. Plus, listening through a door wasn't the same, so he asked him to continue the story about the locust tree. The old man froze for a moment, unsure whether to keep talking or make a move. After hesitating, he went on with the tale. He said the locust tree eventually grew into a spirit being, and then wiped out everyone in Zhang Family Village. As soon as he finished, the old man dropped the act and showed his true form, a fierce-looking tree spirit with twisted features. Gu Qingfeng wasn't impressed. Instead of reacting seriously, he just threw a punch, sending the tree spirit flying. While doing so, he even complained, asking why the guy couldn't at least finish his story properly before trying something like that. The tree spirit snarled, backed up, and called forth a storm of vines that wrapped around Gu Qingfeng in seconds, tying him up tight and hanging him like a rice dumpling. Just then, the system alert popped up. You have been attacked by the 100-year locust tree sprite. Strength increased by 5. Gu Qingfeng felt his body getting stronger and laughed, telling the tree spirit to go all out. He could handle much more. That mocking attitude only made the locust tree even angrier. It summoned even more vines, trying to crush him with force. But the system chimed again. Strength increased by 5. And then another notification appeared. Congratulations. Host has broken the strength limit and obtained the strength of 9 bulls and 2 tigers. The vines binding him started snapping one by one until Gu Qingfeng finally burst out of them with ease. He stepped forward with new confidence, heading straight for the locust tree. The tree spirit panicked, shouting for him not to come closer, but Gu Qingfeng smirked and said no one was coming to help. It was time to face reality. Moments later, the once proud locust tree was already subdued, now obediently giving Gu Qingfeng a shoulder massage while continuing the story. He admitted he was the very same locust tree from Zhang Family Village. Back then, he had grown on top of a buried spirit weapon. The energy from that weapon had allowed him to transform over time. He explained that spirit weapons were special items with spiritual essence, divided into 4 grades: heaven, earth, mysterious, and yellow, matching the demon exorcist ranks. The one beneath him had been the Wood King's sword, a powerful earth-level weapon 100 years ago. But over time, it had been damaged and lost much of its strength, dropping down to mysterious grade. Hearing this, Gu Qingfeng's interest lit up. He immediately asked where the Wood King's sword was now. The locust tree said that when demon exorcists came to capture him long ago, he knew he couldn't win, so he hid the sword in a secret place only he knew. By this point, Gu Qingfeng was done with all the back and forth. He grabbed the tree spirit by the head and demanded he get straight to the point. The locust tree sprite, startled by Gu Qingfeng's sudden grab, quickly gave in and revealed the truth. The Wood King's sword was hidden under the Mountain God Temple, right behind Zhang Family Village in Ji County. Gu Qingfeng finally got the answer he wanted, but as he walked out, he couldn't help grumbling to himself. This tree spirit really talked too much, wasting so much time. By now, it was almost dawn, and there wasn't enough time to check another cell before his shift ended, so instead, he decided to pay the little corpse charmer a visit. He unlocked her cell with practiced ease and found her waiting eagerly. He told her to switch appearances, this time into a confident, elegant lady dressed like a courtesan. Shy but obedient, she transformed into the black stockings lady as requested. Gu Qingfeng clapped in delight, but still felt something was missing. To spice things up, he dragged in the eye demon and asked it to create illusions for him. Together they staged little dramas, one like a campus romance and another like a royal harem struggle. Everything was lively and fun, until suddenly the illusion shattered. Annoyed, Gu Qingfeng turned to the eye demon and asked why it ruined the scene. Nervously, the eye demon explained that it wasn't his fault. It was time for shift change. Gu Qingfeng sighed and yawned. Figures, he thought. Good times always pass too quickly. He got himself ready and went to swap shifts with Zhang Zheng. Zhang Zheng came over humming happily, clearly in a good mood. Curious, Gu Qingfeng asked what happened. He learned that a few days ago, a team led by Master Yang, a mysterious ranked demon exorcist, had gone on a mission to the Bone Forest, but the entire team was wiped out. Because of this, the Phoenix Tree County Demon Quelling Bureau had suddenly lost several strong members, 4 yellow rank exorcists, and even 1 at mysterious rank. With so many gone, the Bureau had to quickly fill the gaps. 4 Inner Energy Realm apprentices were promoted to yellow rank, and one of them even replaced Master Yang. That still left 1 spot open, though. Since there were no more Inner Energy Realm apprentices available, the Bureau decided to hold a martial competition to pick the most capable person and encourage them to train further. The event was scheduled for 3 days later, and Zhang Zheng said the signups were already bustling with excitement. Hearing this, Gu Qingfeng's eyes lit up. He asked if only energy-gathering 9th level apprentices could enter. Zhang Zheng explained that there wasn't really a restriction. Even some at the 8th level had joined. Gu Qingfeng was secretly thrilled. 3 days was plenty of time. If he could win and rise to yellow rank, he'd gain access to the 2nd layer of the demon quelling prison. That meant stronger demons, more encounters, and with the system's help, growing stronger would be as easy as eating and drinking. For him, this was a golden opportunity. Zhang Zheng, though, thought differently. He said those below 9th level were just daydreaming, since it was almost impossible to win against someone stronger. He felt the champion would definitely be among the 9th level group, and advised Gu Qingfeng to rest instead of chasing after something unrealistic. But Gu Qingfeng wasn't swayed. He asked where to register, determined to take his shot. Sure, the system only worked against demons, but martial artists were still a real threat. To win, he'd need to show off, which didn't really match his low-profile personality. Still, with the abilities he'd gained in just 2 days, he felt unbeatable. The limit for someone at energy-gathering 9th level was about 9,000 pounds of strength, but Gu Qingfeng, he was already sitting at 25,000 pounds. With that kind of power, there was no way he'd lose. Meanwhile, the Righteous Energy Hall was packed with people, most of them strong cultivators already at the 9th level of energy gathering. Out of nowhere, a white-haired young man stepped forward from the crowd. He calmly introduced himself as Ye Xuan, an apprentice from the 12th squad, and said his level was only the 7th. The moment he spoke, the crowd broke into laughter. People whispered that he must be out of his mind. They said even those at the 8th level didn't dare to enter. Yet this guy at the 7th thought he stood a chance. Yi Xuan didn't flinch. With a cold face, he told them they were like frogs stuck in a well. If winning was only about power level, then there was no point in holding a competition at all. He said the real test was about courage, not just numbers. One man argued back, saying it wasn't cowardice, just being realistic. But before things heated up further, another voice spoke from behind the crowd. It was Gu Qingfeng. He stepped up and said he agreed with Ye Xuan. Gu admitted he was scared to register earlier because of his low level, but Ye Xuan's boldness inspired him. Hearing this, Ye Xuan looked fired up. He praised Gu for his courage and told everyone that true cultivators shouldn't fear stronger opponents. If they always backed down whenever they met someone stronger, then they would never dare to draw their swords for life. His words hit hard, and many people around began to feel motivated to sign up as well. Ye Xuan even suggested that if they teamed up, then even at lower levels, they could still make an impact. That's when Gu Qingfeng embarrassedly admitted that his level was actually just at the third. The entire hall went silent, and people stared at him like he was crazy. Some thought he was only asking for humiliation, but Gu Qingfeng didn't care. He calmly placed his token on the table, introduced himself as a prison guard from the Demon Quelling Bureau, and signed up anyway. Later that evening, Gu didn't waste any time. He borrowed a fast horse and rode straight toward Jiang family village. With just a few days left before the competition, he knew he needed a weapon. The locust tree spirit had once told him about the Wood King's sword, buried 3 feet deep under the old locust tree at the mountain god temple behind the village. When Gu arrived, he pushed open the creaky gate and spotted a massive locust tree standing tall in the courtyard. It looked so alive that, given a few more years, it might have even turned into another tree spirit. But Gu wasn't there for that. His eyes were on the sword. He quickly pulled out the digging tools he had brought along and got to work. The night grew quiet as he shoveled deeper and deeper, until soon a large pit several meters deep had formed beneath the tree. As Gu Qingfeng kept digging under the old locust tree, his shovel suddenly hit something hard with a metallic clang. He cleared the dirt away and uncovered an ancient wooden box. Excited, he opened it, only to find what looked like a plain, ordinary wooden sword. For a second, he even thought maybe the tree spirit had tricked him with some homemade junk. Still, he decided to give it a try. He swung it at the shovel nearby, but the sword snapped in half while the shovel didn't even get a scratch. Gu Qingfeng froze, staring in disbelief, then cursed in his head and even swore that when he got back, he'd give that locust tree spirit a good lesson. But just as he was fuming, the broken sword suddenly repaired itself on its own. The loose blade piece wriggled into the ground like it was alive, and out of nowhere, vines started bursting from the earth, wrapping around everything. Gu instinctively lifted the sword to block, but he quickly realized the vines weren't after him. They were chasing the sword itself. That's when something incredible happened. Streams of spiritual energy began pouring into the wooden sword, and with just one casual swing, Gu released a blast of sword energy that pierced straight through the huge locust tree. His eyes lit up instantly. This was the real Wood King sword. He remembered the tree spirit saying that he could bind the sword with his own energy. So he raised his hand, ready to cut his finger, but to his shock, his hand stayed unharmed while the sword itself chipped off a chunk. He nearly lost his mind in frustration and started swinging the thing around wildly. After a while, exhausted, he stopped and began thinking calmly about what to do. Just then, the sword made its own move. Vines sprouted from it and shot straight into Gu's body. He didn't even have time to react before the binding process had already started, pulling his energy. Gu realized the sword wanted to accept him, so he let it continue. But what he didn't know was that spirit weapons weren't meant for just anyone. Normally, only someone at the inner energy realm could handle them. If someone weaker tried, the sword might just drain them dry. Gu soon noticed something was wrong. The vines wouldn't stop. Panicking, he focused all his strength in his left hand, pointed at the sword and threatened it, saying if it didn't stop, he'd bury it back underground. Shockingly, the sword seemed to understand. The vine stopped and it returned to its normal form. Gu collapsed, drenched in sweat. He muttered to himself about how tricky this sword was. The truth was, with his current 7th level strength, he couldn't fully control it. The only reason he survived was because of his unusually tough body. Otherwise, he'd have been finished on the spot. Still, the system confirmed the binding was a success. The Wood King sword was listed as an upper-grade Earth-level spirit weapon, though weakened from years of neglect and energy drain. If Gu nurtured it, it could be restored to its full strength. Its special trait was regeneration. Even if broken, it could repair itself. Reading this, Gu was finally satisfied. The tree spirit hadn't tricked him after all. He even thought about one day giving that spirit some release from the demon quelling prison, maybe letting it serve as nourishment for the sword instead of rotting away there. Just then, rain began to drizzle down from the sky. Grumbling about his luck, Gu hurried into the old temple nearby. Inside, he saw a huge statue of the mountain god, but its head was missing. He recalled reading in the handbook that when such a statue was damaged, it meant a powerful demon had once passed through, a sign of danger. But Gu wasn't the type to be scared. In fact, he almost looked forward to it. His system gave him power whenever demons attacked, so the stronger the opponent, the better. He lit a fire inside, pulled out a flatbread, and began eating casually. Not long after, footsteps echoed outside. Gu's heart skipped. He thought maybe a demon had already arrived. But when the door creaked open, it wasn't a demon at all. A beautiful young woman in a veil walked in, accompanied by guards. Clearly, she was from a wealthy family. She sat down gracefully and shyly greeted Gu, which made her seem even more endearing. But before Gu could respond, a bald butler beside her tossed a couple of silver taels at him. The man sneered, telling Gu the temple was too cramped and he should take the money and leave. Gu Qingfeng wasn't happy when the bald butler tossed money at him, basically trying to pay him off to leave. He snapped back, saying he was here first, so why should he leave? Then, with a straight face, he even demanded more, 24 taels. The butler's face darkened as he revealed his true energy realm aura, warning Gu not to push his luck. Gu felt a chill. If it had just been someone at the inner energy realm, he might have taken a chance, but against someone this strong, better not be reckless. Just then, the young lady stepped forward and tried to calm things down. She said it was fair since Gu was here first, and politely asked her people not to make things harder for him. Gu, still half joking, muttered that 24 tiles would have been nice though, maybe even 20. The girl only smiled gently and told him to stop teasing. Since it was pouring outside and late at night, she suggested he stay inside with them. Gu thanked her politely, though inside he was thinking, what demons? Nothing to worry about anyway. But hey, 2 tails are still better than nothing. As a sign of goodwill, the girl even handed him a chicken leg. That instantly made the butler and guards grit their teeth. Food was limited, and here she was sharing it with a stranger. Feeling the sharp stares on him, Gu broke into a nervous sweat and quickly thanked her, praising her kindness. He even asked her name, and blushing, she introduced herself as Si Wei. The two of them started chatting, but suddenly loud screams came from outside. The butler's face hardened. He ordered the guards to protect Si Wei, then stepped outside with a blade. To his shock, every guard posted outside was already down, finished instantly, without even signs of struggle. That level of skill could only mean a true master had arrived. Moments later, a figure appeared on the rooftop, a long-haired man. It was the white-boned sage from the Blood Sect, here to capture Si Wei. Inside, Si Wei panicked. She didn't even know what the Blood Sect was or who this strange man was. One of the guards explained quickly. The Blood Sect was a twisted group obsessed with power and longevity. They dabbled in forbidden arts, tried to merge themselves with demonic energy, and ended up as creatures stuck between human and monster. Whitebone Sage was one of their big shots, a master of corpse refining and a fierce energy realm powerhouse. Hearing about how they consumed humans in their practices, Si Wei nearly collapsed, but Gu caught her by the waist just in time. Flustered and blushing in his arms, she quickly asked why someone like that would even target her. The guards explained that her father, the county protector of Phoenix Tree, had once uncovered a major case involving the Blood Sect. Now, this was their revenge. Gu pieced it together, so Si Wei was the daughter of the county chief, but he was more interested in another detail. He asked the guards if the members of the Blood Sect were considered humans or demons. After all, dealing with spirits and demons was his specialty. He proudly revealed he was an apprentice demon exorcist from Phoenix Tree County's Demon Quelling Bureau. Si Wei's eyes lit up with relief. She said she had heard demon exorcists were the best at handling these kinds of situations, so surely he had a way to deal with Whitebone Sage. But the guards couldn't help laughing. They explained he was just an apprentice, the lowest rank, and only at the energy gathering level. What could he possibly do? Si Wei didn't blame him, and even asked him to just stay inside with them. But Gu shook his head and calmly said not to worry. He just needed to know whether Whitebone Sage counted as human or demon. One of the guards explained that those creatures weren't fully human anymore. They were half human, half monster, because they had monster organs transplanted into their bodies. Hearing this, Gu Qingfeng quickly asked the system if such half-monsters could actually hurt him. The system calmly told him that his ability only powered up when real monsters attacked, not half-monsters. That answer left Gu Qingfeng stunned. He realized if even the guards couldn't stand up to Whitebone Sage, then he might be in real trouble too. For the first time, he regretted showing off earlier. Just then, a strong gust of evil wind slammed the temple doors wide open, and a massive wave of refined zombies rushed inside. Their numbers were overwhelming. One guard instantly burned up his own life energy to use a secret technique, pushing back the horde for a short while so that another guard could set up a protective barrier. But in the chaos, a copper-armored corpse slipped through and attacked Si Wei from behind. At the last second, the same guard who had sacrificed his strength struck with everything he had left, chopping off the creature's arm. The barrier finally came up, but the guard's body began to fade away as his life force drained completely. Still, he felt no regrets, because at least the young mistress was safe. Meanwhile, outside the temple, the bald butler was still locked in a fierce clash with Whitebone Sage. When he noticed the horde pouring into the temple, his focus broke for just a moment. He knew dragging out this fight was dangerous, so he decided to end it fast. With a shout, he unleashed his exploding clothes technique. His muscles swelled like steel cables, and he threw a massive punch straight at Whitebone Sage's face. The hit landed, but Whitebone Sage just sneered, not even moving. The fierce energy around his body alone was enough to throw the butler back, sending him crashing along the ground like a plow cutting through soil. The butler spat out a mouthful of red and stared in shock. He realized Whitebone Sage had transformed himself into a silver-armored corpse. Whitebone Sage let out a strange laugh and said that this was the true strength of zombies, a perfect form that couldn't be harmed by weapons, carried endless power, and only needed fresh energy to exist forever. With that, he strode confidently toward the mountain god temple. Inside, Gu Qingfeng overheard this and instantly caught the key detail. His opponent had turned into a silver-armored corpse, which was exactly his specialty. He quickly asked the system if zombies counted as monsters or ghosts. When the system confirmed it, his confidence returned. He thought to himself that today was the perfect day to show what he could really do. Without hesitation, Gu Qingfeng stepped out of the barrier and stood directly in front of the zombie horde. In a heartbeat, all of them lunged at him at once. The impact was so strong that his Wood King sword slipped from his hand and clattered to the floor. Watching this, Siwei's eyes filled with tears. She thought he was sacrificing himself to buy them time. Even one of the guards looked at him with deep respect, admitting in his heart that he had misjudged young Master Gu earlier. But the truth was completely different. Gu Qingfeng wasn't struggling at all. Thanks to their attacks, his defense points were shooting up non-stop. In fact, he was practically enjoying himself. Wrapped up in a rolling ball of zombies, he even tumbled right out of the temple, looking more like he was having fun than facing danger. Just then, the system chimed in with a big announcement. Gu Qingfeng's defense had broken through its limit. His copper skin iron bones ability instantly upgraded into the legendary Vajra body. With this boost, Gu Qingfeng spread his arms wide, blasting the zombies away like they were nothing, and stepped out in front of Whitebone Sage, looking like a heavenly figure descending to earth. The bald butler was stunned. Someone at just the energy-gathering 3rd level should never be able to do this. That meant Gu Qingfeng either had a powerful secret technique, or his real cultivation was way higher than anyone thought. As the rain eased, Gu Qingfeng finally spoke. He said he was just an ordinary traveler, but since Miss Siwei had kindly shared food with him earlier, he was here to return the favor by sending Whitebone Sage off. Then, in a calm tone, he even asked if Whitebone Sage wanted to take the easy way out himself to save him the trouble. The whole place went silent. Whitebone Sage exploded with anger. How dare this kid talk like that to him? He was the chief protector of the Blood Demon sect, the #1 under the Grandmasters. Without holding back, he charged forward and smashed a heavy punch at Gu Qingfeng's head. Confident in his strike, Whitebone Sage relaxed. No one had ever survived his full-strength attack. But then, an impatient voice came from behind. Gu Qingfeng stood there unharmed, as if nothing had happened. Whitebone Sage froze. His decades of training, even turning himself into something beyond human, seemed completely useless. Shocked, he demanded to know who Gu Qingfeng really was. Gu Qingfeng just brushed it off and said his name, adding casually that he was just an apprentice demon exorcist from the Demon Quelling Bureau. Inside the temple, Siwei whispered to a guard, asking if apprentices weren't supposed to be weak. The guard replied nervously that there was no way this kind of strength belonged to a beginner. Gu Qingfeng had to be at least heaven rank. Whitebone Sage refused to believe it. He convinced himself that Gu Qingfeng must be some ancient master disguising himself as a young man. Either way, he was determined to take him down. He attacked again, even more aggressively this time. But Gu Qingfeng didn't move an inch. Every hit only made his defense climb higher, with the system repeating. Defense increased by 100, 100, 100. When the dust settled, Whitebone Sage smirked, sure of his victory. But then he heard Gu Qingfeng's lazy voice behind him, telling him to stop wasting time and use whatever tricks he had left. Furious, Whitebone Sage shouted that Gu Qingfeng had forced him into this, while Gu Qingfeng just shrugged and said, "Good, make it fun for me." Next, Whitebone Sage unleashed his deadliest move, the Whitebone Wraithfire. He threw it straight at Gu Qingfeng, laughing wildly. In his eyes, nobody in the world would dare take that attack head-on. He bragged that the Wraithfire was cultivated from countless bones and the essence of many powerful beings, able to corrupt both body and soul. He swore that no matter how strong Gu Qingfeng was, he wouldn't leave the temple standing today. From inside the blazing Whitebone Wraithfire, everyone suddenly heard Gu Qingfeng's calm voice saying it actually felt kind of warm. Whitebone Sage froze on the spot and quickly backed away, shocked to see Gu Qingfeng standing there completely fine inside the flames. At that moment, the system chimed in again. Gu Qingfeng's defense had leveled up, and he even unlocked a new talent, fire control. Within moments, as the flames wrapped around him, that talent evolved into fire mastery. Gu Qingfeng casually looked at Whitebone Sage and asked if he had any other tricks. Hearing this, Whitebone Sage completely lost it. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. Not only had Gu Qingfeng survived his strongest attack, but even worse, his Whitebone Wraithfire was gone, stolen right from him. Panicking, he tried to summon it again, but nothing came out. He shouted in disbelief, demanding Gu Qingfeng return it. Gu Qingfeng shrugged and said he wasn't unreasonable. If Whitebone Sage wanted it back, then fine. He tossed the Wraithfire right at him. The moment it hit, there was a massive explosion, and Whitebone Sage disappeared into a sea of fire. A giant pillar of red flames shot into the sky, and the shockwave was so strong, it sent the bald butler flying through the air, spinning a couple of times before landing. Gu Qingfeng then calmly used his new fire mastery to absorb the Wraithfire into his body, though the sudden burst of energy accidentally sent the bald butler tumbling again. Looking at the ashes on the ground, Gu Qingfeng couldn't help but sigh. His opponent had been a peak-level master, which meant his storage ring must have held countless treasures. Rare weapons, elixirs, secret manuals, and piles of gold and silver, all now burned away with him, To thank him for saving their lives, the bald butler respectfully handed Gu Qingfeng a county protector's token, explaining that in Phoenix Tree County, this token would give him face and help him avoid small troubles. Gu Qingfeng accepted it with a smile, saying he would honor the gesture. Right then, the guard who had mocked Gu Qingfeng earlier suddenly dropped to his knees. He admitted his mistake, apologized, and said he felt ashamed for his earlier words. Gu Qingfeng smiled faintly and agreed that a punishment was needed. Siwei was about to step in for the guard, but the bald butler stopped her, saying it wasn't worth offending a grandmaster over a lowly guard. Surprisingly, Gu Qingfeng declared the punishment to be just 24 taels of silver. Siwei couldn't help but laugh at his playful choice, and the guard was so relieved that he immediately thanked him, saying he was even willing to give 240 taels if needed. Hearing the larger amount, Gu Qingfeng's eyes lit up for a moment, but before he could say anything, the bald butler quickly scolded the guard, reminding him not to insult a master by offering money. Realizing his blunder, the guard quickly kowtowed again and respectfully presented exactly 24 tiles of silver as Gu Qingfeng had asked. Gu Qingfeng looked a little disappointed when the guard only paid 24 tiles. In his heart, he was thinking how nice it would have been if the butler hadn't stopped him earlier. He could have made 240 taels, which was like 10 years of his salary. Still, he accepted the silver with a smile and told the guard the matter was settled. The bald butler was amazed. He admired how calm and generous Gu Qingfeng was, saying that this was exactly how a true expert should act. After that, everyone returned to their barbecue. Gu Qingfeng casually munched on a chicken leg while chatting with Siwei, but deep inside, he couldn't help but think how realistic the world was. Before the fight, people treated him like nothing. After showing his strength, their attitudes completely flipped. He thought to himself, if I didn't have power, I might not even be standing here today. Later, he checked the talents he had gained: Vajra Body and Fire Mastery. Vajra Body was way stronger than Copper Skin or Iron Bones, able to defend against high-level attacks. Fire Mastery, on the other hand, was just as valuable, letting him control flames freely, even taking away other people's fire. It was basically the ultimate counter to anyone using fire-based techniques. Thinking about it, he realized he had made huge gains, especially after absorbing Whitebone Sage's Wraithfire. 2 days passed, and Gu Qingfeng, along with Siwei, returned to Phoenix Tree County. He said his goodbyes and went straight to the Demon Quelling Bureau to join the martial arts competition. The arena was already packed with people, and 5 judges were sitting in front ready to watch. With the sound of gongs, the first fight began. Ye Xuan versus He Yi. Ye Xuan was at the 7th level, while He Yi was at the 9th. The gap was too big, and even though Ye Xuan had the courage to fight, he was taken down in less than 3 moves. Watching this, Gu Qingfeng quickly helped him up. Ye Shen, feeling defeated, told Gu Qingfeng to just give up. He had just learned the hard way how impossible it was to fight above your level, but Gu Qingfeng wasn't the type to back out. He said simply that once he gave his word, he couldn't go back on it. Hearing this, Ye Xuan felt guilty, thinking he had dragged Gu Qingfeng into trouble. Soon, the gong sounded again. It was time for Gu Qingfeng's turn. He was only at the 3rd level, while his opponent, Lin Xiao, was at the 9th. Lin Xiao looked at him with pure confidence, almost laughing. To him, this fight was as good as free points. He even told Gu Qingfeng to bring out a weapon, saying it wouldn't matter anyway. Gu Qingfeng noticed the sword hanging at Lin Xiao's waist and asked why he wasn't using it. Lin Xiao smirked and said he didn't need a weapon to handle him. Gu Qingfeng shook his head, saying that wouldn't be fair. If he won using a weapon while Lin Xiao stayed unarmed, people would call it cheating. Lin Xiao laughed and said, "Fine, use whatever you want. If you can even make me move 1 step, I'll admit defeat." Since Lin Xiao was so confident, Gu Qingfeng didn't hold back. He drew out his wooden sword and introduced it proudly to everyone. It was 3 feet long, crafted from the heart of a 1,000-year-old emperor willow tree, and had taken 18 years to forge. He called it the Wood King's Sword, a lower-grade spirit weapon. The crowd burst into laughter. To them, it was just an old piece of wood, and now this 3rd-level rookie was claiming it was some kind of treasure. People whispered and laughed, saying no wonder this guy dared to compete. He was clearly crazy. Gu Qingfeng stayed calm and told Lin Xiao again that his wooden sword really was a mysterious rank spirit weapon. Lin Xiao, a bit annoyed, said fine, he wouldn't call it unfair. The moment Gu Qingfeng attacked, Lin Xiao easily caught the strike and laughed at him, saying it was just a kid's toy. He even snapped the sword in half right there, thinking he had embarrassed Gu Qingfeng. But Gu Qingfeng didn't react at all. He just stood there quietly. Then suddenly, a sharp sting cut across Lin Xiao's hand, making him drop the broken sword piece in shock. That broken piece started glowing with blue light, and before anyone could understand what was happening, vines burst out from the ground, wrapping tightly around Lin Xiao. He struggled hard, but the more he fought, the tighter the vines became. Only then did he realize Gu Qingfeng had been serious all along. That sword really was a powerful spirit weapon. No matter how much Lin Xiao tried, he couldn't break free. His face twisted with pain, and finally Gu Qingfeng spoke lightly, telling him it was enough and thanking him for conceding. But instead of accepting it, Lin Xiao, red-eyed and frustrated, shouted that the win wasn't fair. Gu Qingfeng just smiled and reminded him, "You're the one who agreed I could use it. How is it unfair now?" Lin Xiao snapped back that nobody could have guessed a plain wooden sword was actually a spirit weapon. But Gu Qingfeng calmly pointed out that he had clearly introduced the sword in detail before the fight, and everyone in the audience had heard it. Still refusing to admit defeat, Lin Xiao demanded a rematch without weapons. Gu Qingfeng wasn't about to fall for that. He waved the sword in his hand and directly asked the judges if spirit weapons were against the rules. A woman with an eye patch laughed and said she liked this kid's attitude. The main judge, Manhwa, confirmed there was no such rule, so Gu Qingfeng was officially declared the winner. After the vines were released, Lin Xiao still begged for another round, but Manhwa slammed the table and told him off. A loss was a loss, and he had to step down. Lin Xiao had no choice but to leave the stage, humiliated. As Gu Qingfeng was about to leave, Manhwa suddenly called him back and tried to buy the Wood King's sword, offering 2,000 taels of gold. But Gu Qingfeng wasn't foolish. He politely refused, saying the sword was a family heirloom and couldn't be sold. Manhwa's face darkened, clearly unhappy, and just as he was about to make things difficult, a cheerful female voice called out. She told him the private duel matter had already been handled, and reminded him the final match was starting. Manhwa had no choice but to walk away with her, pretending everything was fine. But deep inside, he was already planning how to somehow take Gu Qingfeng's spirit weapon in the future. After all the drama, Gu Qingfeng went back to his room and decided it was finally time to try actual cultivation. Even though he had the system helping him since the start, he'd never really practiced properly. But now he understood something. If he raised his realm, people would respect him more, and life would get a lot easier. Plus, higher cultivation meant living longer. With that in mind, he sat cross-legged and began practicing. The method he used was the Pure Bright technique, the basic training every Demon Quelling Bureau member had to learn. Since most enemies had dark attributes, exorcists used bright attribute techniques to counter them. Gu Qingfeng closed his eyes, focused, and started pulling in the spiritual energy around him. At first, it felt like a warm flow gathering in his body, but without realizing it, he ended up falling asleep. By the time he woke up the next day, he sighed to himself. It wasn't that he didn't want to train, it was just that cultivation was way too boring. So, he grumbled to the system, asking why it always gave him random boosts like defense or strength, but never just bumped up his cultivation realm directly. Jokingly, he even complained, "What are you trying to do? Turn me into some muscle guy?" To his surprise, the system actually replied. It said it couldn't improve his realm because he technically didn't have one yet. Gu Qingfeng got annoyed and argued back, saying he was clearly at the 3rd level of energy gathering. But the system explained that energy gathering didn't count as real cultivation. That stage was only storing energy, not refining it. True cultivation only started from the inner energy realm, and until he reached that point, the system couldn't upgrade him. Gu Qingfeng tried to bargain, asking if there was some other way, but the system flat out refused. Feeling helpless, he accepted that it would take him ages to reach inner energy if he relied only on training. So, for now, he just let it go and moved on to prepare for the next round of the martial arts competition. When he showed up at the arena, all eyes turned to him. After all, he was just a 3rd level energy gathering rookie, but carried a legendary mysterious rank spirit weapon. In the Demon Quelling Bureau, normal demon exorcists only used ordinary weapons. Even those at the higher mysterious rank usually only had yellow-grade spirit weapons. True mysterious rank weapons were rare, and usually belonged only to powerful Earth-level exorcists. In fact, the entire bureau only had one Earth-level spirit weapon, owned by a top expert named Li Qianren, so everyone was shocked and envious that someone like Gu Qingfeng had one. His opponent for the round, a guy at the 9th level of energy gathering, looked nervous. He knew fighting against such a weapon left him with almost no chance. Still, he decided to go all in, hoping to defeat Gu Qingfeng before he could use the sword. The man rushed forward, slashing his blade right at Gu Qingfeng. But just before the strike landed, the Wood King's sword reacted on its own. Vines shot out, weaving into a wooden shield so tough that the opponent's blade couldn't even scratch it. The man froze in disbelief. Realizing brute force wouldn't work, he quickly jumped back to create distance. But as soon as he landed and saw Gu Qingfeng standing there calm and protected, he had no idea what to do next. Gu Qingfeng wasn't planning to give his opponent even a second to react. He quickly controlled the vines, wrapped them around the man's sword, and yanked it away like it was nothing. The vines spread everywhere, even bursting out from the ground, leaving the poor guy totally caught off guard. Once he had the upper hand, Gu Qingfeng casually thought of tossing the sword back just to wrap things up. But right then, the man tried a sneaky counterattack. Bad idea. The vine smacked him aside instantly, making the whole audience go silent. In the very next round, Gu Qingfeng didn't even waste words. He just bound the opponent with vines and tossed him out of the stage. The move wasn't exactly damaging, but it was so humiliating that the crowd didn't know whether to laugh or feel bad. Then an old man stepped up. He suggested that Gu Qingfeng fight fair without using the spirit weapon, even saying he'd lower his own cultivation level to match him. But before he could even finish talking, Gu Qingfeng's vines shot out and sent him flying. Only then did Gu Qingfeng look around innocently and ask what the old guy had been saying. He joked that the wind was too noisy, so he couldn't really hear. The audience was left speechless. With this, Gu Qingfeng easily made it into the top 4, but the other contestants weren't happy at all. They went straight to Manhwa and complained, saying Gu Qingfeng was basically cheating with that spirit weapon, making the whole contest pointless. Manhwa didn't stop them. In fact, he saw an opportunity and sent his steward, Huang, to deal with Gu Qingfeng. The next morning, while Gu Qingfeng was chilling in his room and practicing, Huang showed up. He explained that the others were boycotting him and that Lord He was offering a deal. If Gu Qingfeng agreed to sell the Wood King sword, he'd be allowed to keep using it for now and later trade it in once he became a yellow rank exorcist. On top of that, he'd get money, the official title, and Lord He's favor. Gu Qingfeng asked straight up what would happen if he refused. Huang shrugged dramatically and said then he'd be banned from using the sword, stuck in the top 4, lose the yellow rank title, and even upset Lord He. But Gu Qingfeng wasn't moved. He told him flat out the sword was a family heirloom and he wasn't selling, so Huang could just leave. Huang snorted and called him foolish before walking out. Back at the arena, the crowd was buzzing with excitement. Everyone was whispering that they felt bad for Gu Qingfeng's next opponent, Hu Banking, one of the favorites to win the whole competition. Hu Banking was no small fry. He was already at the 9th level of energy gathering and had once taken down an ironclad corpse. That feat alone almost pushed him into the inner energy stage, making him a half-step powerhouse. But unlucky for him, his next opponent was Gu Qingfeng. Right before the match started, Hu Banking raised his hand and told the judges he had something to say. He accused Gu Qingfeng of cheating by abusing the spirit weapon rules and claimed the guy didn't really have the strength or character to deserve the title. Basically, he wanted the judges to ban Gu Qingfeng's Wood King sword. Manhwa immediately gave Gu Qingfeng the chance to respond. To everyone's surprise, Gu Qingfeng laughed it off and said he only used the spirit weapon because he didn't want to crush their confidence. The audience burst out laughing, mocking him for acting so arrogant, but Gu Qingfeng didn't flinch. He calmly put the Wood King sword away and announced that he'd fight without it. He even added that he'd been invincible in the energy gathering realm for a long time. His words made the crowd even louder, but also curious. With his declaration, the judges officially revoked his right to use the spirit weapon. The fight began. Hu Banking, full of pride, thought Gu Qingfeng with only 3rd level cultivation was an easy win. He even tossed his sword aside and swung his fist straight at Gu Qingfeng's head. But instead of hurting Gu Qingfeng, it was Hu Banking who screamed in pain. His hand felt like it had smashed into steel. The whole arena went quiet, and Manhwa even stood up, realizing Gu Qingfeng had mastered the legendary iron cloth robe. Nearby, the one-eyed woman was impressed too. Muttering that she never expected to see such a genius in external training, the audience erupted in shock. How could someone at the 3rd level tank a punch from a 9th level master? Hu Banking, clutching his hand, grabbed his long sword again and charged, but Gu Qingfeng casually caught the blade with his bare hand and snapped it apart like it was nothing. He looked at Hu Banking and told him there was a huge gap between them. He had only been holding back so the others wouldn't lose confidence, but now it was clear who stood above. Hu Banking, though pale and trembling, still refused to admit defeat. He claimed Gu Qingfeng was only physically tough, not truly superior. Gu Qingfeng had heard enough. He placed his hand on Hu Banking's head and pressed him down, face first, into the ground, leaving a deep dent. Hu Banking instantly fainted. Brushing the dust off his hands, Gu Qingfeng told the steward to announce the result, smiling like it was just another casual day. The audience was stunned. Once again, he had won effortlessly, this time without even using his spirit weapon. As Gu Qingfeng walked off, his next opponent, Bai Maming, watched nervously. His confidence crumbled, and he even doubted if his spear could pierce Gu Qingfeng's defense at all. Manhwa noticed this and quietly approached him later. When asked if he still had confidence, Bai Maming reluctantly admitted he didn't. That's when Manhwa revealed a trump card, a hidden spirit weapon, a yellow-grade lower-tier spear called Facing the Phoenix, which had never been shown in public before. Bai Maming was still confused about why Manhwa suddenly gave him a spirit weapon. Manhwa coldly explained that Gu Qingfeng was too arrogant, too reckless, and if someone like him became a yellow-rank demon exorcist, it would be a disaster. He handed Bai Maming a spear called Facing the Phoenix and said that with this weapon he could definitely break through Gu Qingfeng's defense. Bai Maming felt grateful. With this weapon, not only did he have a real chance of winning, but he might also gain Lord He's favor. But soon, a thought hit him. Weren't spirit weapons banned in this competition? If he used it, wouldn't that make him the one breaking the rules? Fenghua just laughed coldly and said the ban only applied to Gu Qingfeng. Bai Maming hesitated for a moment. He knew this was shady, but the temptation of becoming a yellow-rank demon exorcist was too strong. In the end, he agreed. The next day, the arena was packed. Everyone was buzzing about Gu Qingfeng, the guy who had defeated opponents 6 levels above him. Some people were so inspired they even started practicing the iron cloth robe themselves, and the library's manuals ran out of stock. When the match began, Gu Qingfeng walked up casually. He looked at Bai Maming and joked, asking if he wanted to fight for real or just surrender early to save time. Bai Maming wasn't having it. He declared loudly that he had developed his own unique spear technique, powerful enough to pierce anything, and challenged Gu Qingfeng to withstand just one strike. If he survived it, Bai Maming promised he would concede. Gu Qingfeng didn't argue. Instead, he smirked, opened his shirt a little, and told Bai Maming to go ahead. But while Bai Maming was staring at his chest like it was a piece of art, Gu Qingfeng frowned. In his head, he was like, "What's with this guy? Why is he staring at me like that?" The fight started, and Bai Maming thrust his spear with all his strength. Flames exploded on the stage, and Bai Maming grinned, certain he had won. But when the fire cleared, Gu Qingfeng stood there completely fine, glowing with a golden barrier. The crowd gasped. They realized what it was, the golden bell shield in its full form, paired with the iron cloth robe. Together, Gu Qingfeng's body was as tough as a yellow-rank spirit weapon. No wonder the spear couldn't touch him. Qingfeng stayed calm and even teased Bai Maming, saying so this was his self-developed technique. Using a spirit weapon and calling it original, that was bold. Bai Maming tried again, stabbing harder, but the spear couldn't move an inch past Gu Qingfeng's defense. Gu Qingfeng, now annoyed, asked him straight up if he was having fun stabbing him like this. Bai Maming froze, his confidence crumbling, and his nervous stare made Gu Qingfeng even more uncomfortable. "Why are you looking at me like that again?" he asked. Bai Maming misunderstood, thinking Gu Qingfeng was trying to trick him into always striking at the chest, so he changed targets, aiming for the navel instead. But just as he thrust, Qingfeng casually caught the spear tip with 2 fingers, and it stopped dead. Gu Qingfeng was annoyed by Bai Maming's attempt to strike at an odd angle. He scolded him casually, then with a flick of strength, snatched the spear and tossed it out of the arena. The crowd immediately lost interest in the fight and rushed to grab the weapon, leaving Fenghua fuming since it belonged to him. Bai Maming, feeling triumphant, teased Gu Qingfeng about his chest being vulnerable. Gu Qingfeng was speechless and reminded him that he had only refused the other strikes to protect his clothes. The audience watched as Gu Qingfeng showed off his strength, and even when Bai Maming clung to his robe and tore it, he still couldn't gain the upper hand. With a final move, Gu Qingfeng sent him flying out of the arena. The referee declared Gu Qingfeng the winner, officially earning him the rank of yellow-rank demon exorcist. Steward Huang and the one-eyed woman congratulated him and handed over the standard equipment for his new rank, the goose feather blade and the exorcism token. The blade, though not a spirit weapon, was high-quality steel with a small formation that gave it extra effect against demons. The token acted as a record, storing the aura of any demon the holder subdued, basically a merit tracker. Afterward, the one-eyed woman left, leaving Steward Huang to guide Gu Qingfeng through his promotion benefits. As a new yellow-rank demon exorcist, he could claim a primordial cultivation pill and pick a martial technique from the Scripture Vault Pavilion. It was his first time on the 2nd floor, and with so many techniques, he felt overwhelmed. So he decided to pick one at random. When he opened his eyes, he realized the technique he chose was called the Burn Bright Sword, an extremely powerful and risky sword technique. It used the bright fire energy within the body to attack, which could hurt the user if not controlled properly. The administrator warned him it was dangerous, suggesting he pick something safer, but Gu Qingfeng felt it was perfect for him. With his strong physique and fire mastery talent, the technique matched him like it was made for him. Combining it with his Whitebone Wraithfire would be like holding a secret trump card. Confident and excited, he decided to keep the Burn Bright Sword and also planned to pick up the Golden Bell Shield later. The administrator warned him again to be careful, but Gu Qingfeng was determined, saying that no hardship was too great if it meant showing his true ability. He trusted fate had chosen him to master this technique. With that, he left the Scripture Vault Pavilion, leaving the administrator both worried and impressed. After leaving the Scripture Vault Pavilion, Gu Qingfeng ran into Steward Huang. Huang noticed the Golden Bell Shield in his hand and wondered why he was carrying it, since Gu Qingfeng had already mastered it. Gu Qingfeng awkwardly scratched his head and shared a casual but wise comment about reviewing the old to learn the new, which surprisingly impressed Huang. Secretly, Huang decided he wouldn't make things difficult for Gu Qingfeng unless ordered. As Huang was about to report back, he saw Fenghua standing outside. Turns out, Fenghua had discovered that the spear, facing the phoenix, had ended up in his own yard, right in a manure pit. Since spirit weapons are extremely sharp, it had pierced deep down. Manhwa had just cleaned the yard, but a faint smell lingered. Remembering Huang's poor sense of smell, Manhwa took him to retrieve the spear. Huang hesitated at first, grossed out by the smell, but eventually jumped in and fished it out. Meanwhile, Gu Qingfeng stayed inside, mastering the Golden Bell shield. He then wanted to practice the Burn Bright sword, but doing it indoors could burn down the house, so he decided to head to the suburbs. At the outskirts of Phoenix Tree County, Gu Qingfeng started his training. The first step required absorbing bright fire energy from the sun to infuse it into one's inner energy. Normally, one would refine and compress this energy to let it burst out like real fire, but since Gu Qingfeng only had third-level energy, gathering and lacked true inner energy, he skipped to the next step, focusing the energy onto his sword. The technique involved compressing and igniting the energy at a precise point for an explosive effect. Without mastery, it could backfire, and Gu Qingfeng nervously thought about applying the same method to his Whitebone Wraithfire. He tried using the Burn Bright sword method to slash out the Wraithfire. After many tries, he finally managed to unleash a super concentrated sword energy that split a small mountain. The slash continued toward Phoenix Tree County, creating a massive boom and lighting up the night sky like daytime. Gu Qingfeng's training was intense, but he was clearly leveling up fast. After pulling off that massive slash, Gu Qingfeng finally understood the Burn Bright sword, compress the energy, then release it explosively. But as he watched the sword, energy shoot toward Phoenix Tree County, he realized this could be a problem. What if someone got hurt? Panicking, he sprinted toward the county to make sure no one was in danger. Not long after, a group arrived at the scene, led by the heaven-rank demon exorcist of Phoenix Tree County. He immediately sensed the Whitebone Wraithfire and recognized the sword marks on the ground. Combining sword techniques with Whitebone Wraithfire was unique to the Blood Demon sect, so he guessed the person responsible was either a Blood Demon sect grandmaster or a spy from the Demon Quelling Bureau. Looking closer, he realized the sword technique matched the Burn Bright sword from the Bureau. That meant either the culprit had been to the Bureau or someone inside had leaked its secrets. He figured the Blood Demon sect was testing him, sending a strong practitioner at night to swing a sword, destroy a mountain, but avoid harming people. A clear provocation. Their real target was probably the Candle Dark sword, an Earth-rank martial technique related to the Burn Bright sword. Both originated from the incomplete Heaven-rank Cross-Underworld Flame sword, and the Blood Demon sect might be trying to uncover fragments. Thinking strategically, he decided to use the Candle Dark sword to lure them out and trap them, possibly finishing off a core enemy while maybe even completing the Heaven-rank technique if they had other fragments. But he planned to discuss this with his colleagues first. Meanwhile, Gu Qingfeng made his way to the resting room, happy to see everyone safe. Today's experiment combining Burn Bright sword with Whitebone Wraithfire had been a huge success, way more powerful than he expected, but he realized the technique was dangerous and unpredictable. He might accidentally hurt someone if he used it carelessly. Practicing it secretly was also impossible because of the noise and power. Then he had an idea. Why not use normal flames instead of Whitebone Wraithfire? It would be much safer, and with his fire mastery talent, he could control them just as well. Feeling confident, Gu Qingfeng pulled out a primordial cultivation pill. Normally, it was for inner energy practitioners, but he decided to take it anyway. As it dissolved, a pure medicinal energy filled him, and he started absorbing it using the Pure Bright technique. Demon exorcists nearby praised his diligence, impressed that he was practicing even in the resting hall and setting a good example for everyone. An hour into his practice, Gu Qingfeng felt his internal power spike and accidentally let out a loud fart, filling the resting room with a horrible stench. Despite that, he broke through to the 4th level of the energy-gathering realm, the Pinnacle. He was shocked at how effective the primordial cultivation pill was. A few more pills could have pushed him into the inner energy realm in minutes. Too bad the Demon Quelling Bureau was stingy and only gave him one. As a yellow-rank demon exorcist, the only way to get more pills was by completing tasks and earning merits. Basically, you had to work hard every day like an honest laborer to keep improving. Remembering it was his first day reporting as a yellow rank, Gu Qingfeng rushed back. To his surprise, his direct superior was none other than Manhwa. No wonder Manhwa had been the referee in the recent competition. He had replaced the late mysterious rank demon exorcist and was now picking subordinates. Gu Qingfeng felt a bit nervous, having refused Manhwa twice before. Still, he reported dutifully. Manhwa stayed silent, clearly trying to make things awkward, but a one-eyed woman stretched lazily and greeted him, breaking the tension. She smiled, warned him he was late on his first day, and said he'd lose a month's salary as a lesson. Manhwa agreed without without complaint. Gu Qingfeng couldn't believe it. Find a whole month's salary on his very first day, he muttered to himself, grumbling about working for free, while pointing out that the sundial outside showed he was basically on time. Fenghua replied sharply that rules were rules and hinted he might be lenient if Gu Qingfeng admitted his mistake. Gu Qingfeng laughed and jokingly accused Fenghua of showing off his authority. The other demon exorcists were impressed by his boldness, though they wondered if he really understood how to respect a superior. Fenghua calmly picked up his cup and asked if Gu Qingfeng realized the severity of his words. Unfazed, Gu Qingfeng shot back, calling out Fenghua for manipulating the competition and mistreating subordinates. The room went silent, and Fenghua crushed his cup in anger. He scowled and threatened to have Gu Qingfeng assigned to the demon-quelling prison as a guard for life. For a moment, Gu Qingfeng froze, but then realized this might actually be a lucky break. He had been looking for an excuse to get transferred to the prison, and now it was basically being offered to him on a silver platter. Gu Qingfeng stepped forward, grabbed Fenghua's hand and thanked him with mock tears, though inside he was secretly thrilled. He was thinking, yes! The second layer demons, here I come. Fenghua looked confused, assuming Gu Qingfeng was scared or trying to act humble. The one-eyed woman jumped in, suggesting Fenghua reconsider, since they were short-staffed after recent events. But Gu Qingfeng quickly insisted he really wanted to go to the demon-quelling prison right away. This stubbornness made the one-eyed woman furious, wondering if he had lost his mind. Fenghua finally interrupted, deciding to let it slide for now, mostly because the bureau couldn't afford a problem with staffing so soon. So, for Gu Qingfeng, the chance to get his preferred second-layer assignment slipped away. Instead, Steward Huang led him to select subordinates. Each yellow-rank demon exorcist could choose up to 5 people. The new recruits included 4 high-level inner energy realm masters, while Gu Qingfeng was only at the 3rd level of the energy gathering realm. Most were aware of his past feats, but doubted his real strength. They figured he might be strong physically, but he'd struggle against inner energy realm fighters. In their eyes, he was the weakest among the 5. During the selection, everyone else quickly gathered followers, leaving Gu Qingfeng empty-handed. It looked like he was being ignored. Not one to give up, Gu Qingfeng decided to take matters into his own hands. He convinced others to join his team, arguing that even powerful leaders can't handle all demons alone, and that he'd act as a shield to boost their chances of survival. Most were skeptical, but a few, like the cautious Fatty Wang and the scholarly Xu Fan, agreed to follow him. After picking his subordinates, the Bureau assigned each yellow-rank demon exorcist an area to manage demon-related incidents. Fenghua handled the assignments himself, and behind Gu Qingfeng, Fatty Wang quietly prayed he wouldn't get stuck with the dreaded Blackwater village. Curious about Blackwater village, Gu Qingfeng asked Fatty Wang what was so bad about it. Fatty Wang explained that the recently deceased mysterious rank demon exorcist Mr. Yang had died there. On a dark, windy night, Mr. Yang and 4 yellow-rank demon exorcists were patrolling the dry bone forest when some cursed bones suddenly turned into troublemakers and finished him off. A heaven-rank demon exorcist had sent reinforcements, but they returned empty-handed, concluding that the threat wasn't local and moved around. Anyone with sense could tell it was hiding, waiting for the right moment to act again. Fatty Wang, worried about being assigned there, asked Gu Qingfeng if he could talk to Fenghua for leniency. Gu Qingfeng awkwardly smiled, claiming his relationship with Fenghua was excellent and that he'd surely get special treatment. Fatty Wang felt relieved, but Fenghua coldly assigned Blackwater Village to Gu Qingfeng anyway. Fatty Wang was stunned, realizing Gu Qingfeng's good relationship wasn't helping. Gu Qingfeng just nodded awkwardly, while Fatty Wang sank to his knees knowing they were in for a tough time. He suggested they patrol only the outskirts to stay safe, but Gu Qingfeng refused, saying a true demon exorcist couldn't just stand by. They had to protect the people. Xu Fan supported Gu Qingfeng completely, insisting that their duty was to save people and restore order. Fatty Wang was left speechless, wondering if Xu Fan had lost his mind. Gu Qingfeng reassured everyone, promising that with him around, ordinary threats were nothing to worry about. But they still had 3 days before heading to Blackwater Village, so Gu Qingfeng planned to use the time to practice the Burn Bright sword. He considered using ordinary flames, but that would be slow and awkward since he'd need to light them manually each time. Then, a bright idea struck him. Why not make it like a lighter? He planned to forge the sword from special flint material, fill the scabbard with flammable oil, and rig it so that drawing the sword would ignite the oil instantly. Thanks to his fire mastery, he could control any leftover flames, preventing accidents. Feeling clever, he headed to the Demon Quelling Bureau's blacksmith to get the weapon made. At first, the blacksmith, a fitness fanatic, refused the order. Gu Qingfeng sighed at the typical public servant attitude, but then decided to use his money and handed over the payment and design. The blacksmith blacksmith's attitude changed immediately, and he eagerly started studying the design, ready to get to work. After a while, the blacksmith warned Gu Qingfeng that a sword made from flint would be super fragile and useless for actual fighting. Gu Qingfeng had expected this and told him to follow the design anyway, since the sword wasn't meant for combat. It was just for practicing the burn bright sword technique. The blacksmith got it and said it would take 5 days to finish. Gu Qingfeng, knowing he'd be heading to Blackwater village in 3 days, didn't want to take any chances. He offered extra money to get it done faster. The blacksmith hesitated at first, but agreed after seeing the bonus. Motivated by the extra pay, he finished the fire sword in just 2 days. Gu Qingfeng named it Yama. Before heading out, Gu Qingfeng made sure he was fully prepared. He brought along the goose feather blade blessed by the bureau, the regenerative Wood King sword he'd discovered, 7 talismans, and a bottle of energy nourishing pill. Feeling confident, he called Fatty Wang and Shufan to leave. Fatty Wang had gotten even heavier, apparently because he was wearing extra thick armor out of fear. Gu Qingfeng was impressed he could even move and all that. By dusk, they reached Blackwater village in Dark Mountain County. At first glance, the village seemed peaceful, making Gu Qingfeng wonder if there were really any troublemakers around. Still, he decided to enter and check things out. And that's a wrap for today's video. If you enjoyed the content, hit that like button for more juicy updates, and don't forget to smash that subscribe button for regular updates.